Hi everyone, and welcome to my review of David Cronenberg's Videodrome in 1983. Now, here we are with this review. Now, this is a film that I saw almost a week ago now. Didn't review it because simply it stumped me, it really did. First of all, it was very, very ambiguous and just really unlike anything I'd ever seen, really. It's one of the probably most unique films I've seen, and that's a good sign. It's not, the fact that I didn't like the film, because I absolutely loved it, actually. It's a good sign that I didn't quite decide on my rating. I still very I have to maybe rewatch it to see if it is a certain status, and I'll say what that status could be. But for the moment it is certain. I know my rating now, I think. But yes, basically this film, all I knew, I'd been looking forward to it for years. And I'd seen The Fly. That's the only David Cronenberg I'd seen. Loved it. Jeff Goldblum, amazing. Just amazing film. Very, very good. Well, great, definitely. And that's all I'd seen. This film always interested me. The concept of it. James Woods, of course, a safe actor because I absolutely love him in everything I've seen. I thought he can't be bad in it. Just really, really intrigued me, the whole idea of it. And actually, it kind of exceeded my expectations. This film really, really blew me away. I was stumped with this, and a lot of it is ambiguous. That's one of the reasons why, of course, I couldn't quite give an exact rating, originally. And again, as I say, even now, the rating I give, could change a little bit on the rewatch. Could move up a percentage. And basically, this film, James Woods plays Max. He's a CEO of a television station, and he comes across, broadcast, signal of this show, basically known as Videodrome, and it's basically a very, very graphic, brutal torture kind of porn show. Yes, and basically, he gets this kind of pictures and everything. And he's trying to seek out what this is and everything. And basically, as the film goes on, this show that is kind of mentioned. Everything. You see it. You learn more and more disturbing stuff. James Woods' character of Max becomes more and more, drawn into this, and these very, very mysterious characters that kind of surround it. Very, of course, characters that are very, very dangerous, and basically his life, is put at risk. And as the film goes on, it basically becomes an odyssey into the unknown. It really is hard to describe this film, as you can probably tell. But yes, basically, the lines, of kind of reality and fantasy are completely blurred. Once the film, certainly the second half of this, a lot of the time you don't know whether he's in the world of this, kind of show, or if it's just in real life. And the show basically takes, certainly, it seems as it takes him into it, kind of thing. And of course there's these, just so much stuff that goes on, and there's these people that he gets involved with, and yes, basically, that is the plot, really. This show, this kind of very, very graphic show, comes to life. But again, there's moments throughout the film where he's told, it's just in his mind. But really, the good thing is that that's not a spoiler, because really you never really find out, unless of course, I guess on repeated viewings, become more clear to me. But you never really fully find out, basically, when it is and what, and kind of if it all was kind of in his mind. And basically, he becomes more and more unhinged over the film. It's one of these ones, like say, Taxi Driver, where a character study and a man kind of becomes more and more kind of unhinged. Yes, and basically, similar sort of stuff that pans out. But yes, basically, I can't say much more about the plot, and it wouldn't do it justice anyway. Because of course, a lot of things I don't know whether they actually happened and all this kind of stuff. Very, very unique film, and a stunning one at that. Just of course, I didn't. A lot of it was ambiguous. I didn't understand everything. More of a film where you can't, because it's so ambiguous. You don't quite know exactly if something's this rather than that. Not that I didn't understand what it could be. It's just it could have been many different things at certain points, and that's what I was trying to say. That's one of these films where you have to rewatch it, and then you get more of a kind of a clear mindset. But of course, I took away my own opinions from it, and it really got me thinking. I was fully invested, really, from start to finish. The kind of concept of this, always intrigued me, and wow, it was executed, in wonderful ways. At times, I could say masterful. And this is the thing, I don't quite, certainly my first watch, I don't know if I can call it a masterpiece. It could well be on a second viewing, a masterpiece. Because it's very, very close to that, and I couldn't put my finger on it. It just didn't. Certainly not my first viewing. Didn't quite speak to me as a masterpiece, but it did speak to me as a great film. James Woods, he's a very, very undervalued actor. I think, I think he's absolutely brilliant in everything I've seen him in, and of course he does some great voice acting as well, video game stuff, which is great. But yes, Casino even, great memorable character, of course. Once Upon a Time in America, where he gives one of the greatest performances of all time for me. That's his best still. And that was a year after this. This was '83, and this, he gives an absolutely mesmerising performance. Just wow, he's on fire here. Really, you see this character become more and more disturbed, and his performance is just so believable. It's quite quite stunning. And just very, very, at times despicable person. He's kind of relishing, in this kind of this torture porn stuff that's shown. Now, of course, this is quite controversial, and luckily, at least I didn't think so. It wasn't a film that kind of, encouraged violence or anything like that. It wasn't like that. It wasn't a film where it was kind of, a torture porn film or anything. It was actually. It did disturb. It really disturbed me. And one of the most disturbing films I've ever seen. The imagery here, is very, very graphic, very, very bizarre at times. Surrealist, and of course, Cronenberg, is known to be, one of these guys that dabble into that. But this really was, But everything that was on display visually was masterful, for sure. I think, the cinematography, just the creative ideas, and the kind of the stuff involving the TV, and everything. And then, of course, when things, actually change, James Woods, which I won't talk about, that's really, really creative. It's one of the most creative films I've seen, probably, in a long time. It really is, and for sure, one of my favourite horrors, among them, it's absolutely stunning, this film. Debbie Harry is in this film, and basically, she is great in the film, very, very memorable character. And it, explores, a lot of sexual stuff in the film as well, a lot of complex emotions in this film, but it does it really, really in interesting ways. Nothing kind of heavy-handed, really. There's nothing, offensive for me, and it really was a very, very intriguing film, very human one. Really, very masterful character study at times, and it really, it did have a lot of emotion behind it. But yeah, and I think the editing, all that kind of stuff was really top notch. I think. The script was very thought-provoking, mostly great. I think even some of the side characters, kind of stick in my head now. And of course, nothing really is as it seems. And that's the great thing about this, really, really, it's an unexpected turn of events. And, it's very, very complex at times in the way that it doesn't, as I say, very ambiguous. It doesn't, kind of say this is exactly what's happening. It could be this, it could be that. Throughout most of the film kind of thing. It's never really, I don't really know, maybe some people do feel differently about the ending, but it is an ambiguous ending as well. So it kind of, which is great. I think, of course, some of my favourite endings are these type of ones. Once Upon a Time in America, actually, for sure. And but this film, of course, it kind of hinges on that a bit in the way that you don't really get any answers throughout the film. And the ending doesn't, give really any. It just gives, well, it doesn't give you an answer. It gives you many different ones, that you can kind of pick. But on this occasion, I think, and because of the whole ambiguous nature of the film, just in the manner it is, it maybe just doesn't. It's one of the. It's not. It could be a flaw for me, basically, and it's very, very hard to kind of say that because I wouldn't say I would flaw loads of different films that do this. But this film in particular, it does kind of draw you into this bizarre stuff, fantasy, sci-fi, all this kind of stuff. And I did want maybe just a couple of answers, here and there. But yes, I of course, repeated viewings, as I say, I can rewatch this and probably come to a better conclusion. And but I didn't think everything else was completely masterful. But most of it was. I think maybe the script at times wasn't quite masterful. And yeah, just I didn't really have any flaws. It didn't quite speak to me overall as a masterpiece. And basically, I did connect to it. Really throughout the entire film. But it just doesn't speak to me as a full mark film. In the way that I connected to it. And kind of the emotion behind it and everything like that. But it does get a 98%. I think it's really, really close to being a masterpiece. It just, I'd have to rewatch it. I really would. This is a hard one. Everyone. This is really probably one of the hardest films I've had to review because it's very, very ambiguous. As I say, really, it's a disturbing film and it really succeeds in, mostly what it's trying to do. As a kind of ambiguous film, though, it does, it's a bit too much. I think at times, for me to maybe call it a masterpiece, I'd have to rewatch it, as I say, and just a couple of things I wasn't, quite sure about if they were, full marks. A couple of things in the script, and just one or two moments, maybe, not tonal breaks, but yeah, no, I have to rewatch it to say that. But at the moment, it's at least a 98%, and I think it's pretty accurate. It's not going to be 100, I don't think, but it's very close between that and a 99. So as I say, it's pretty much I got my score, but it could be, it might still stay the same, but it could be on a rewatch a 99. But this film, really is stunning. I was so invested. I got kind of drawn into this kind of dreamlike film. The sci-fi elements there are stunning. The visuals all around are absolutely breathtaking. I think the kind of the score by Howard Shore is great. It really does raise the tension. Everything, the atmosphere throughout this film is really something else. That's what I've not said. The atmosphere in this, the tone of it, really is wonderful. And James Woods is absolutely stunning in this film as Max. Wow, what a performance! Once again, he's the protagonist. It's mainly following him, and he is just amazing in this film. Really perfect casting there. Cronenberg really directs this film wonderfully and wrote this film as well, and it is a great script, and I just, maybe not quite a perfect one, but, and yes, the ambiguous nature of the film, it kind of slightly affects my overall kind of connection to it, just in places, I would have maybe liked some answers in the film. I don't usually say that, and people say about 2001: Space Odyssey. I don't. That's in my top 50 of all time, actually. But yes, basically, that film is actually a bit more easier than this for me to understand. But there's films like that where it is, of course, ambiguous at times, and it doesn't affect my enjoyment whatsoever. But this one maybe just does because it has, it's because it's more heavy on plot than say 2001 or something like that. Where it really, I would have liked a couple more answers in that plot, that kind of what actually is happening, at times, kind of thing. So hopefully I'll explain myself. Hopefully, you'll check it out because it is a stunning film. I of course gave it a 98, and it is just really a wonderful horror film. Very disturbing, very, very disturbing. So as a horror, it really succeeds massively. There's no cheap stuff, no jump scares, anything like that. It's all about atmosphere, dread, and kind of very much dealing, in the psychology of it all. And it's a character study. At times, very, very masterful. Just a couple of things I need to be sure about, to kind of, and the whole kind of ambiguous nature, as I say, it kind of maybe stops it from being a masterpiece. It certainly wasn't a film, as well. Early on, I was feeling it's an instant masterpiece, so maybe that falls into that as well. But after a while, I was thinking it could be, and that's just the case. Hopefully I've explained my scoring as well as what I think of the film, and I think just watch the film. I think maybe discuss it in the comments because it's a film that it'd be interesting to kind of talk about and people's views on it. But yeah, it's a wonderful film. Another great Cronenberg film. This and The Fly, pretty close for me in my enjoyment. And yes, I think really want to see the rest of his films, and this was a great horror film, great sci-fi film. The dreamlike nature, and the kind of just all-round greatness, really. Very, very involving, really kind of very thought-provoking, and the way it explores the nature of violence and kind of sex as well. It really is highly effective, and it's not exploitative or anything like that. Wonderful film, and I loved it, absolutely adored it. Just wasn't quite maybe a masterpiece for me. But yes, thanks for watching my review of Videodrome.